and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who always gets his tactics right. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I'm not sure which of the coaches in this game that makes me, but I'll take it.
Are you not? Because, spoiler alert for France-Uruguay, France won 2-0. Didier Deschamps got his tactics right. Oscar Tavares got his tactics the same.
Yeah, I think that's the way to put it. Because we thought maybe Uruguay might change a couple things. They could theoretically, but I think what we landed on is they're probably going to do a 4-4-2. It's probably going to be Stuani instead of Cavani. That's exactly how that went.
It's exactly what they did, and they did exactly what they do.
Yep.
And I think Didier Deschamps figured out a way, not around it, but at least a way to side it. How about that?
Yeah, okay. Then, yeah, I think, so going back to the intro then, because somehow that does, I feel like, inform the larger conversation.
Yes.
I don't think...
Tactics first. That should be the Total Soccer Show tagline.
But I don't think Tavares necessarily got his tactics wrong, but I think you're right. He got them the same. Deschamps adjusted accordingly, and he got his very much right.
Here's my take. If you only have one approach, you can't get your tactics wrong.
This is true. Yeah, but then when you go 1-0 down, you run into some problems.
Yeah, exactly right. They couldn't switch it up. They couldn't change it. So should we lay the X's and O's
Sure.
out? So Uruguay love to do the 4-4-2. Mm-hmm. The back four doesn't get tempted forward too much. The midfield four stay compact. Midfield four stays compact, works hard, closes things down. And it's almost like the front two just do a bit of pressing, but then are always available on the counter-attack.
Yep.
So then you turn it over to France and say, hey, best of luck trying to break us down, and we'll probably hit you on the counter-attack. Mm-hmm. I thought that would be a problem for France. I was wrong. I think Didier Deschamps is a better coach than I thought he was.
I think that's something we're slowly learning.
Yep.
I do enjoy all the op-ed pieces about how, are France actually good? The answer was yes from the beginning. So yes, they've been very good. The question mark remained about how Deschamps would get his tactics. And I think what he's done is sort of figure them out as he's going and continues to do so. And I think that's what a good coach does, is tinkers a little bit. Doesn't change it up wholesale, but makes the adjustments that are necessary to put his players in a position to win.
So here's my question for you. The whole narrative coming into the tournament was that Deschamps didn't know his best 11. He kept moving Pogba around. He kept moving Griezmann around. Maybe it wasn't that he was trying to figure out the best way to fit them together. Maybe he had a specific plan for each game, and it just looked like he didn't know his best 11. Yeah, I would buy that theory now, and I would have to say I was wrong coming in.
I mean, that's one possible theory. I think it could very well be the case. It could also be the case that they're winning. And with that comes a flexibility and a confidence that then maybe Antoine Griezmann says, yeah, sure, I'll do this. When maybe if you're really struggling to break down compact defenses like they were in the Euros, maybe players are less inclined to do things that take them out of their comfort zone. Either way, it is a French team that are far more well-drilled than I think than we thought they would be coming into this tournament. And I think they're even better drilled than we thought they were in that Peru game, which is the first time you and I felt like, ooh, there's something here.
Yes. All right, so what did he do this game? We haven't actually laid it out, right? How did Deschamps and France and the French players counter against the Uruguayan 2 blocks of 4?
Well, I think that word right there is key to start. I think it was about the counter, that if you go back and look when Uruguay would get set pieces, when the ball would eventually go to Lloris, he was regularly looking to get up real fast, play that ball real fast. We've talked about Lloris's core strength in the past. He used it to his advantage to hop right up, throw that ball as far as he could. And I think that was the start of it, is that you try to play on the transition when Uruguay don't have that 4-4-2, the 2 backs of 4 set.
So take advantage when you can, when they're not in that shape.
And then exacerbate that advantage. So you would see, say, Lloris play the ball wide to Pavard. He would take a touch. And there was a couple of occasions when he would just ping that ball all the way across the field to Hernandez.
Yep.
So now Uruguay are not only...
That's by the way, that's right back to left back for those who aren't tracking.
And so that's Uruguay not only having to drop back now, but now they've gone from, they're going to attack down the channel. We'll block that channel off. But then there's the big switch. And in the past, France didn't do as good of a job of playing that switch fast. It would be fullback to center back to maybe holding midfielder out to left back.
Yeah.
Here it was 2 passes at most, sometimes that one big ball. So now you've got Uruguay switching, shifting from side to side, and that's where you can start to pull them out a little bit. And that's exactly what France did.
I think it's time for a patented Total Soccer Show analogy.
Sure.
So,
oh boy.
The reason this works so well is you can be compact, right?
Yep.
If you're Uruguay or any type of defense that likes to play compact. And when you're compact, you can switch ever so slightly to the left if that's where one team is coming down. And then if they move the ball slowly to the other side, you can almost, it's like a line dance. You all slowly go over to the other side to meet them. And
Daryl Grove is a famed line dancer, by the way.
I am, yeah, Richmond's finest. And you can meet them over there and you can keep your shape, right? But if that ball goes side to side to side to side really fast, imagine it's as if like the dance is speeding up and eventually some people are out of step and then gaps start appearing, and that's when you can take advantage.
Yeah.
I'm pretty proud of that analogy.
I mean, it works. Yeah. I would say, though, like the key thing for me, though, remains that it's when they're in a state of transition, because it is the case that if they were able to get back into the two banks of four, one of them standing on top of the 18, one standing, say, 5 or 7 yards ahead of them, then you can switch all you want. They don't care. Uruguay don't care. But if it's them running backwards...
They refuse to do-si-do.
Yeah, exactly. But if it's them running backwards and then thinking, oh, you're going to attack on the right, let's get everybody over there, and they're still running backwards, and then the ball switches, and now they're trying to transition back over to the other side, but still running backwards, but some players are staying where they were. Now you stretch them out a little bit. So even if they're eventually able to get back into the two banks of four, now maybe they're 5 yards wider than they normally would. 5 yards more spread, and then you get opportunities to shoot or play the ball into the box, and that you have those 1v1 situations.
The other thing that France did, I think, quite well is they pressed Uruguay. So anytime Uruguay had thoughts of, we'll play it long to Suarez because he's up on the strikers and he'll lay it off and start a play, France would either cut it out at the source by putting pressure on the guy with the ball so he can't play it accurately long to Suarez, or if they tried to go through midfield, France were really willing to step and win the ball. And I think the best evidence for this is both French goals come from some sort of counter pressure to win the ball back.
Yes, because I think it's trying to win the ball back, or at worst you concede a foul but you're going for the ball. Maybe it's a yellow card. More often than not it's just a foul.
And it's not a Luis Suarez counterattack.
Exactly. Then it's them usually having to get set. Maybe they send some numbers forward, Uruguay, and again, if they send those numbers forward on a long free kick, now you've got the opportunity to counter. So I think you're absolutely right. But in this case, it's basically French pressure forces a half clearance. Then Uruguay get the ball back, but there's kind of not really sure what to do, and it's Bentancur, right?
Yeah, Bentancur takes. I think he thinks he's taking a touch into space. He hasn't checked his shoulder properly, and Tolisso is on him immediately. Tolisso gets there first. Bentancur has to foul him as Uruguay are trying to get out. France have a free kick. Not only do they have a free kick, they have a plan for their free kick. And this is how Uruguay take the lead just before half-time. What's their plan, Taylor?
Stutter steps.
Stutter steps, yes.
Never underestimate the importance of stutter steps in a free kick.
Terrible on penalties, wonderful on free kicks.
Weirdly, yes. Yeah, because Uruguay are not trying to hold the 18. They're like a yard deeper, I think because of where the wall had to be. Yeah. But also, you drift a little bit, you try to stay goal side. There is that panic of, ooh, that person is between me and the goal, and they're attacking. I don't like that. So there's cheating back a little bit, and then as...
Oh, worth underlining, if you haven't seen this, it's a free kick from the right, so it's going to be crossed in. It's not a shooting opportunity.
It is not. But it is Griezmann then does that little stutter step as he runs up to the ball and stops. But because Uruguay, the defenders, think that ball is coming in, they all drop a good 3-5 yards. And then Griezmann takes it. But because they've all, number one, backpedaled, they've opened up space. But number two, because they've backpedaled, they're backpedaling. They're on their back feet. They're not moving to meet that ball. And that's evidenced not even by what Varane does, but by the fact that... Stuani, who did start in place of Cavani, he goes up to meet that header thinking, oh, I've got this clean. He jumps straight up in the air, and he's beaten to it by Varane. But it's because I think he backpedals and then jumps from a standing position. He just goes straight up. He's not moving to meet it. He's not aware of what's going on around him, and he ends up having to help pick the ball out of the net.
They're on their heels instead of on their toes. Raphael Varane is on his toes. He loses his marker, Vecino, I believe. He just gives him a little touch and a little push away, gets away from him.
That was the other key thing for me. Forgive me, are you about to say this and I just cut you off?
I was building the excitement of the goal, and then he darts in front of Stuani. As Stuani's about to think he can, just easily jump and head clear. Varane gets there first, heads it past Muslera. But you're right, Varane does pull a bit of a trick on Vecino.
I think so. I don't know if it's this well timed. I like to believe it is because that makes it master set piece theater. But if it is, as Griezmann does the first stutter step, Varane moves to Vecino and he makes contact with him. He basically touches him in the chest, and it's not. I don't think it's a push. If it is, it's not enough of one to really be a foul or anything like that.
It's affectionate, if anything.
Yeah, but kind of, because it has that effect of if you're the defender and if you flip that scenario around, you're trying to hold on to the player, and obviously not to concede a penalty, and not to that degree, but you want to know, I'm marking my man, I've got my arm on him, I know where he is, I know where he's in relation to the ball.
I know this feeling.
I'm good to go, right? And so I do think that there's an element of Griezmann does that stutter, Varane goes to Vecino, and he touches Vecino, and I think it would be easy to think, oh, okay, I'm marking my man, not realizing
we're reunited. It was good.
But the situation is reversed, so now he is the one making contact with you, he is the one controlling it. So I think Vecino is sort of like, oh, okay, we're going to stand up right here, this is where I'm going to defend, and then Varane's away again. And you can see really it's when that touch happens, Vecino does that kind of stand up like, okay, now we're going head to head, mano a mano. Oh wait, he ran away from me.
Oh, he ran away from me, and he met the ball, and he headed it past Muslera. It is 1-0 to France going into the half. Is the Lloris save is before half time, right?
It is 44th minute. Yeah.
So I don't want to overanalyze this, but it's a great full stretch save, good reaction save down at the right hand, to Lloris's right. To meet I can't remember who the header is now. I'm saying this.
I can't remember who the header is, but I know it's Godin who then follows up.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe a Godin header and
a
Godin follow up. There is a chance after Lloris has saved this for Godin to smash it into the top corner. I think he just goes for power, holds the button too long, blasts it wide and over.
Yeah.
That was Uruguay's
both.
Best opportunity
100%,
of the entire game.
I think so, yeah.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, and again, this is a weird incident because, yes, it's a moment of French vulnerability and it's good attacking work from Uruguay, but it also, to me, is a good reminder that there is definitely a game plan in place, both for attacking and defending set pieces, because afterward, Paul Pogba gets very aggressive.
Is it because... So we don't fully know what happened here, right? But we think Pogba... There was a switch and he got dumped with Godin at the very last second as the free kick was coming in, and that's why Godin wins the header. So probably Pogba's just annoyed that there was some disorganization.
Yeah, but I think, absolutely. But to me, that speaks volumes about it's not just like, okay, everybody defend somebody, oh, you lost your man. It felt like it was, because it's Giroud who I think then goes with the runner and I think is supposed to stay, and I think they're supposed to trade off.
And it would make sense for Giroud Godin to be the matchup.
Yeah. So there's those moments from France, which I think show that there's definitely a plan and there's lots of logical play happening. And then there's moments like the second goal.
So, this is just after Uruguay have made a couple changes, but they've been very like for like, right? They haven't actually changed the shape. It's still 4-4-2.
Yeah, Gomez Rodriguez come on, Stuani Bentancur come off.
So it's almost
Vecino
like
goes central. Yeah, it's 4-4-2.
Same old shape. Uruguay are on something of a counter-attack. I think Suarez tries to knock it short to Vecino, and he loses the ball. He is tackled by the one and only Paul Pogba, comes charging away with the ball, and France are in full counter-attack mode.
I would say one adjustment that I think Tabarez made, maybe around halftime, was still in a 4-4-2, but I think it was a little bit more of a diamond. I think you had Torreira sitting deeper, Bentancur when he was in, and then Vecino when he came central, a little bit further up. And I say that only because I think that's important here. When it's Vecino who gets dispossessed by Pogba, now you've bypassed at least one of those two holding midfielders, who's not even a holding midfielder anymore. But now you've got one midfielder in a bad position who's trying to track back in Torreira, but now he's trying to cover Pogba and Tolisso in the middle while the defense is still scrambling. And I think that little adjustment, while it makes sense from a Uruguay standpoint, sort of left them vulnerable to this exact type of play.
And what happens is you think you've got this plan for a compact 4-4-2, but once you're counter-attacked, everything falls apart because everybody's trying to cover more space than is possible. The dance partners are not there. People are dancing on their own. Nandez is on the right. He's having to try and come into the centre and cover, right? That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to cover for the absent, Vecino.
Vecino,
Yeah, so as Nandez comes inside, that's when Griezmann very wisely starts to dance outside. Griezmann just drifts to the left. Pogba has a nice, clever cutback pass that cuts out the rest of Uruguay's midfield to Tolisso. Tolisso lays it out to Griezmann. Griezmann has lots and lots of space to set himself up to take that shot. This reminds me of Di Maria. Remember when Di Maria scored that goal for Argentina? Was it against Nigeria or against France?
It was against France.
It was against France when everyone was like, why does he have that much space to shoot? And it turns out that Mercado was screening Matuidi, right? There's always a reason a player has too much space to shoot. The reason here is that Griezmann spotted Uruguay's disorganization, right? I keep using that word. It is a word, right? Drifts wide, gets himself the ball.
Certainly.
But why doesn't Muslera stop it?
I think because there's definitely a massive amount of swerve on this ball at the very last second, which is always weird when it swerves kind of out of nowhere. But I think it's also Muslera reacting to the shot a little bit late, so I think he doesn't have his feet set, and that's why he's almost landing and then has to reach back across his body to try to make the save. So as Tony Meola pointed out, then he doesn't have like the best wrist and punch technique, so it ends up kind of hitting the fingers. That's not always going to hold back the most powerful of shots. Goes into the goal instead.
Tony Meola was useful on the broadcast for the goalkeeper stuff.
Yes.
Muslera also maybe just wanted to help Howler Magazine out. Give them some video to tweet.
I feel like I jinxed him by saying I don't know who the best and who the worst goalkeeper is on this side of the bracket, and then he goes and does that. And that kind of rules him out of the running, I would say.
So, good win for France, right?
Certainly.
Deschamps got everything right. I don't think France put a foot wrong. There's maybe the Kylian Mbappe moment.
That's a moment.
That we watched a few times. We do not know if he's overreacting to something that didn't happen or overreacting to something that did happen.
Yes.
But
either way, he's overreacting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He may, was it Rodriguez?
Yes.
He may have gotten a punch in the stomach from Rodriguez.
And even then, we watched this several times. Don't worry about that. But it's like Rodriguez, he definitely goes from having an open hand, like he's reaching back as if to say, like, okay, I've got him, like, I see Mbappe coming across, I'm marking him. But then as Mbappe gets by him, there's definitely like a fist made. Mm-hmm. There's maybe a little bit of movement forward. It's definitely not like a sucker punch, rabbit punch, or anything like that. But maybe it's enough to sort of cause a little bit of discomfort.
Yeah.
It is not enough for Kylian
Mbappe.
Dude
as well. He probably packs some power.
Certainly.
Yeah.
But not enough to make Kylian Mbappe fall over
Yeah.
and hold his stomach and head as though he's been punched in the gut.
I mean, isn't this is the Neymar thing, right? Mm-hmm. Of when this happens to you, most of the time it's not going to get seen by the referee, so you've got to really sell it to try and make sure it gets attention. But in doing so, you maybe sell it too hard and you don't get what you deserve. In fact, Mbappe gets a yellow as well, right?
Yeah, he does. He does for this, yeah.
For simulation, I guess.
I guess so, or maybe for protesting. I'm not sure. We haven't talked about this so much, and this is a thing that maybe we try to avoid is like the psychology of players. Mm-hmm. But it really does make me wonder if in that moment, like if you, for example, Daryl, if that happens to you, I think you'd be like, that was weird. Even if the player meant it, I think you wouldn't necessarily assume that they meant to punch you in the stomach.
Yeah,
like if it was like
very naive like
you'd be like, that was weird, and you'd continue running. And it does make me think that there is some weird, probably learned instinct with soccer players where there's that mentality of like, that was weird. I wonder if he meant to hit me as you continue to run. And then there was some contact. It was probably intentional. I'm going down.
I think there's a switch that goes maximize.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, make the absolute most of
Which
this.
is definitely very bizarre. And then it seems like that switch has been turned up to 11 in this World Cup.
It does, right?
Because there's no reason for Mbappe to do this, especially with VAR, aside from maybe wants to kill a couple minutes.
I just think it's part of the competitive spirit is to just put your nails in and like claw at every possible advantage that comes your way. And I think there are plenty of soccer players who are very nice people who turn into terrible people as soon as the whistle goes. And I think Mbappe is probably not dishonest in his day-to-day life, but he's willing to be dishonest when this happens to oversell it.
Yeah,
you know
100%. Yeah. And with that,
you can copy and paste all of this to Neymar for our Brazil discussion maybe later.
True, 100%.
We haven't seen the Brazil-Belgium game yet, by the way.
Let's hope there's no more of that. Yeah. Famous last words, if so. But I'll say this without trying to go on a rant here, or trying not to go on a rant. But for me, it's a good reminder of like stop with the hero worship. Stop lionizing people, because if you make it out as like Kylian Mbappe is the greatest player of all time and he's going to be the future Ballon d'Or winner and he's amazing and he's incredible, and then he does this, you set yourself up for having to have that's an embarrassment, that's a disgrace. And it can be, things can be two things. He can be a very good soccer player who did a stupid thing in the game, and that's frustrating, but he's still very good. But it's why you don't name your kids after active sports players. You never know how that's going to end up.
Oh, because you nearly had a young Ryan Giggs,
and
right?
Exactly.
Ryan Giggs Rockwell.
Yeah, that would not go so well. That would not go so well nowadays.
As long as you don't also have a brother for him, you'd be fine. Actually, since you've raised this, one of the things I want to talk about is I've noticed that there's a lot of non-soccer fans, just like casual sports fans, watching the World Cup and being very upset about the diving, and they're either mocking soccer because of it or just being angry at soccer because of it. I want to start some sort of movement where as soccer fans we just say, I don't care and you don't understand. Yeah. Right? Because I think, like I just said about Mbappe and about Neymar, it's about maximizing the advantage. It's about making sure the fouls on you get noticed. Like if you only see the diving and the rolling around and just make fun of that, and you're not willing to look at why do they do this? What are the circumstances? What's the context in which they're doing that? I'm not interested in hearing your opinion.
It's a game of nuance, people. It's a game of nuance.
And if listeners want to learn some of the nuances of soccer from maybe the best writers.
I was really wondering where you were going with this.
Soccer world. You know where I'm going now.
I do now. Yeah.
Today's show is sponsored by The Athletic. All-star writers. All-star soccer writers at The Athletic Soccer.
And also us.
And also us. We're pretty good too. Good too. But there are big names writing for The Athletic. Paul Tenorio, Graham Hunter, many, many more. We can't start listing them. But we should maybe explain to listeners.
You kind of already did, but okay.
I listed two, but there are many more.
Yeah.
We should explain what The Athletic is, what the model is. Because I know we talk about The Athletic a lot, but some people may be like the what?
Yeah. The what? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a variety of different sports. If you subscribe, which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, I scroll past all the other ones.
It gives you access to all of them, but for our purposes, we're talking about the soccer portion, which is run by our friends George Qureshi and Brooks Peck.
Yep.
You know them and you love them. And basically, it is a subscription model for journalism. So you don't have the pop-up ads, the videos, the annoying ads that move the text down when you think you're reading it, and then suddenly you're looking at an advertisement of Aubrey Plaza yet again.
Oh, Aubrey. Aubrey.
That happened to me today reading another website's coverage, and it made me stop reading that website's coverage.
Did she jump through the wall?
She did.
Oh, did she spit out some of the wall?
In even more abbreviated fashion, which makes me think that they were trying to get it in before the click this link to skip the video came up. It's good stuff.
So that's one of the Athletic promises, right? No pop-up videos. You pay the subscription fee, you get the best writing, and you just get the writing. We read around a little bit today. I often read The Athletic genuinely just in my downtime on the bus, not on my bike because it'd be dangerous. Couple stories caught my eye. First one is by Graham Hunter, Scottish journalist based in Spain. He really knows the Spanish team. He wrote a story, Why Spain Fell Short. And I sort of expected this to be, me too. They were too slow passing it. Russia defended well. There was more to it, right?
Yeah, I was excited for it because I like Graham Hunter.
Yeah.
I was nervous because I thought it might just be there wasn't the heart and the passion and the conviction that we've seen so many times.
You should have known better, and so should I.
I should have, yeah, because in the end, it's a really good insight both into the mentality of the team, but also the mentality of the individual camps from going all the way back to 2008 when they first won the Euros, all the way up to this tournament when they did not win the World Cup.
Yep, and so we don't want to give details away. Obviously, mostly Taylor doesn't like it when I spoil the articles, but I will say Graham Hunter having access to seeing what Spain do in practice sheds a lot of light on what this team has been doing versus what previous teams have been doing. Is that spoiler-free enough?
Yeah, but I'll spoil one thing. I did not know that apparently Xavi and Iker Casillas were very, very good friends, remain very good friends to this day, which was a big part of why that locker room was so unified.
Yeah.
Because you had one big Barcelona representative, one big Real Madrid representative.
Do you think the Ramos-Iniesta... remember Ramos signed Iniesta's jersey? Do you think they're in when he sort of played his last game for Barcelona? Or after the last Clasico that he played in?
That could be.
Do you think that's an attempt to continue that tradition?
Maybe, but I think the fact that their coach was fired and kind of had himself quit, I don't know how you put that, like days before the World Cup started to go coach Madrid, probably didn't help heal any wounds that might have been existing from the season.
So what else have we been reading on The Athletic, Tyler?
There was the article about Paul Pogba and N'Golo Kante, which we very much enjoyed.
By Sophie Sabini. It was titled, Paul Pogba and N'Golo Kante lead France in different but equally important ways. As they do. One's tall, one's short, one's more showy, one's less showy. Yeah, but it's more detailed than that.
One refers to himself in the third person. You can guess which one that is. I didn't know that, but I also didn't know, maybe just because I haven't been paying as close of attention to the lifestyle of Paul Pogba, I didn't realize that he didn't speak to the media or the French media before and after French games for a couple years, I think it was in the article, because he felt like he was mistreated and got a lot of blame when it wasn't due, and it seems like he has kind of moved past that and gotten into a more comfortable rhythm with the media.
Yes. The one thing I will semi-spoil from this story is that Paul Pogba's opinion of N'Golo Kante and N'Golo Kante's effectiveness has definitely done a 180 over the last few years, right? To the point where he used to say N'Golo Kante never scores goals. Now he appreciates that N'Golo, what did he say? Seems to have 15 lungs, which is a wonderful bit of imagery.
Yeah.
Maybe Pogba should be a writer as well.
I mean, maybe N'Golo Kante has 15 lungs. You don't know, Daryl. You don't know.
I haven't had him scanned.
But so you've got stories like that. You've got Paul Tenorio, as you said.
Yeah.
He wrote a good, would you say, opinion piece about like the future of Major League Soccer?
It was interesting. It had three halves. It was half a Bastian Schweinsteiger interview, half an analysis of what Major League Soccer is doing, and half Paul Tenorio's opinion on what Major League Soccer should be doing. But the crux of it was that MLS needs to embrace being a selling league, and that having, say, Tyler Adams or Miguel Almiron leave MLS and go and do things in Europe is a better advert for the league than signing Wayne Rooney
Yep.
is the essential part of it. And I have to say, I very much agree with Paul Tenorio.
I very, very, very much agree.
Oh,
so there
shouldn't
you go.
You shouldn't have one-up me.
No?
Yeah. So if you want to read Paul Tenorio's opinion/prescription about Major League Soccer, subscribe to The Athletic. Now, worth underlining, The Athletic is not free. As we said, there's a paywall for The Athletic, but you can make that paywall a lot lower if you use the Total Soccer Show code. You get 40% off if you go to theathletic.com/TSS World Cup, or one word, theathletic.com/TSS World Cup for 40% off a subscription to The Athletic. All-star soccer writers. Link will be in the show notes.
That's right. If you're listening to this on your podcast player, whatever phone it might be, or tablet or device, you can click the show notes and you can find a link right there.
There you go.
With that said, shall we move on to the final game of the day?
Yeah. Are we still doing spoiler alerts? Let's say let's just
go.
Well, if you don't want to hear the Brazil-Belgium score, then you're in the wrong place.
Then what are you doing?
Because, what are you doing? It finished Belgium 2, Brazil 1. Brazil, Neymar, and all the rest of the Brazilians are out of the tournament. I have to hold my hands up and say, I am hugely surprised at this result, and I am extra surprised that Roberto Martinez out-tacticked Chiche.
Before we get tweets, yes, there's the one naturalized Russian who's Brazilian. We know he's still there. But outside of that, yes, the Brazilian national team is out. I cannot believe how right Roberto Martinez got things in this game. So there really is, because I think we got to be upfront with that, because I'll own it myself. I'll let you speak for yourself if you so choose. If you would like to just say, yeah, ditto, that works. But I felt coming out of the Japan game, the deficiencies in Belgium and the way they chose to approach that game made me very concerned about how they were going to line up in this game. It felt like Roberto Martinez might just go with the same thing and think, oh, I'm sure it will be better this time. And instead, I'm not trying to take credit here, but he made all the changes we thought he should make, and then made a few other ones that I think were genuinely fascinating, borderline revolutionary, in my opinion.
Because he put some disguise on it as well.
He sure did. It was a little Juan Carlos Osorio sprinkled in there.
This is the day of us appreciating coaches like Deschamps and Roberto Martinez that we have previously underestimated.
Well, I would say Deschamps, we had, I think, a little bit more I don't know. He did some things right in this tournament. Yeah. We had a little bit more nuance than I think other outlets have. Roberto Martinez, I was ready for them to sort of be put to the sword by Brazil. It just felt like he was going to put out a bunch of attackers and expect them to do the job and think, I've got 3 veteran defenders. That should do it. Not against Brazil.
Well, here's the thing. He had both 3 and 4 defenders.
That's
because
the key.
Here's the revelation that I'm guessing not everybody will have picked up on, so I'm excited to share it.
To be fair, Stu Holden picked up on it within the first minute of the game.
Okay.
I just didn't realize
But they didn't come back to it, right?
No.
They didn't dwell on it. What they did is they lined up in essentially a 3-4-3, right, with a back 3 of the classic Vertonghen, Company, Alderweireld. In attack, they had a back 3. So then they had their wing backs, which were Chadli and Meunier, could spread the field, spread Brazil out, right? That's what we were scared of. We thought if they do that, their midfield's going to be spread out if they lose the ball. Brazil will come charging through, and Coutinho and Neymar and Jesus will rip them apart. But what they did is, when Brazil get the ball, they switched to a back 4 with 3 defensive midfielders in front of it. They went compact and narrow very quickly from being wide. It was genius.
And that's what I think elevates the decision-making for me, is that we said, again, I'm not trying to say we were the right on this one, but it's more so he did the things I wanted him to do and then some, because we wanted it to be Chadli instead of Carrasco. We thought you probably have to take Mertens out, move De Bruyne further forward. That gives you another central midfielder. But as you said, even then, we felt like there's still a chance. 3-4-2-1, you can get overrun in the middle. There's going to be problems. And we kind of talked about it yesterday, that there were opportunities or vulnerabilities for Brazil without Casemiro. And instead, with that shift into that 4-3-3, that attacking, what do we say? It was a defensive 4-3-3, attacking 3-4-2-1, basically?
3-4-1-2.
3-4-1-2, that's right, that's right.
So the very clever shift was, every time the ball was turned over or Brazil had the ball, Meunier would go from right wing back to right back. Vertonghen would go from left centre-back. You're checking my work as I go, right?
I'm just making sure I've got it written down as well,
Would go from left centre-back to left back. So then they have a flat back 4. And then Chadli would go from left wing-back to basically left centre-mid alongside Fellaini and Witsel. And then De Bruyne would sit just ahead of them, and Hazard and Lukaku would sit as a wide front 2, ready to break. Roberto Martinez was able to have his cake and eat it. He was able to have the wide attack and the narrow, compact defence. this is brilliance. This
It really
is
was.
tactical brilliance from Bob Martinez.
Because
this is a man who invented the 2 TV system so he could spend time with his wife and he could watch soccer at the same time.
Yes.
You remember this from Great
Oh, of course I do. But
Yeah.
first of all, it's Bobby Martins. Get that right. Second of all, it was also fascinating because you said when they were attacking, it was that 3-4-1-2. And what that meant was the two like wingbacks, quote unquote, were super far up the field. Like it was almost like they were a second wave of attackers. They were so far forward. But because you then had Fellaini and Witsel and De Bruyne occasionally dropping in, you could still have Witsel shielding that back three. You could still play through the middle if you wanted to try that. But you had so many attackers far forward on the wings that it really didn't let Brazil get into any sort of compact shape, and it really made them uncomfortable throughout.
Amazing. It's the first time we've really seen Brazil uncomfortable the whole tournament, right? They looked frustrated in the first game against Switzerland, but never uncomfortable.
Yeah.
This, I think they never figured Belgium out. They may not know what Belgium were doing in this game. To be fair, like I'm not saying we're smarter than Chiche, but we had to watch this live and then rewatch it for a good chunk of the game on the tactics cam to see the thing that was happening.
Yeah, and we missed I think the first couple minutes of this game. So to be fair, we did miss the part where Stu Holden says, "Oh wow, they've shifted," because they really did do it straight from kickoff. They adjusted that formation, and I think it was only late in the first half that I turned to you, was like, "Hey, Daryl, I think they're in a back four." And
but it's both, right?
Yeah.
They were in a back four and a back three
Yeah.
in the same game. I have never seen a team do an asymmetrical shift like this.
No.
I've seen Tottenham go from a back four to a back three because Eric
Yeah.
Dyer is central defensive mid and he steps between two centre-backs. That's easy, but to have...
I mean, that's what the US did with Michael Bradley.
Probably not planned, but
Probably not quite so much.
But
now.
to have your right wing back come back and your left wing back go midfield and your left centre back go left back, brilliant. All right, I think I've probably gushed too much about
Actually, no,
Martinez.
I think it's worth going into just a little bit more, only to say that it's especially interesting, brilliant, revolutionary, whatever in my mind, because if it is, say, Axel Witsel is dropping in and spreading those two center backs wide, that, in my opinion, is a pretty easy adjustment to make. If you're Brazil, you just think, okay, we send one more center midfielder a little bit forward, we overload, we drop into a 4-2-4 almost, and then suddenly we've got pressure there. But when it's this weird, as you said, asymmetrical one, like the left wing back becoming a center mid, the left center back becoming a left back, the right wing back becoming a right back, like suddenly it's really difficult to move your pieces around in a way that fits that change.
Yeah.
And it feels like even when you make that adjustment, because what you're going to do is probably take your right back and put them into midfield, or you're going to take your left winger and pull them centrally. But that then leaves a vulnerability that Belgium's attacking fluidity can easily exploit.
Wow. All right.
It was genuinely very good, and it wasn't just very good from a tactical standpoint, from an execution standpoint. Like, one of the things you spotted is there was a moment when Belgium broke. They had an opportunity. I think it went out for a goal kick. Meunier turns and is on a full sprint to get back into his exact spot where he needs to be.
Yep.
Then he rests.
They're like Transformers, right? I'm a car. I'm a weird big robot. I'm a car. I'm a weird big robot. They just go back and forth very, very smooth. You can maybe hear the noise as they changed formation.
It's a pretty good Transformer noise.
We should also, before we talk about the goals...
I feel like you practiced that at home.
I did not.
Do you play Transformers?
No, but I did see the Bumblebee trailer. That's why I heard the noise recently.
I don't know what's happening here. Facts are coming out. I feel like you have your ticket to Bumblebee already.
No,
That's what I'm hearing.
I went to see The Incredibles 2. Very good. You should go see it. There was a Bumblebee trailer before it. Yes.
All right, you're forgiven.
Okay, thank you. Before we talk about the goals, one of which is from an important set-piece move that Belgium have done as well. Another prepared thing, I think. I want to talk about the front two for Brazil, which is what I'm going to call it. Lukaku and Hazard.
Oh, for Belgium. Gotcha.
For Belgium. Did I say Brazil? Excuse me.
I think so.
But Lukaku would spread right, Hazard would spread kind of left, and they would stretch Brazil out as well. They would always be wide of Brazil centre-backs. So Miranda and Thiago Silva never quite knew what to do about it.
And I think we had a few people ask, like, do we think Thiago Silva should have started instead of Marcelo? It might have made a difference.
You mean Luis Felipe?
That's the one I meant
Felipe
to
Luis?
say. Felipe Luis, thank you. We got that question, and I don't know if it would have made a big difference, but I do know that it caused a problem, specifically Romelu Lukaku, because you could see on multiple occasions, you would see Miranda talking to Marcelo and telling him, you got to stay back, you got to tuck inside, you can't drift forward, and that really did.
Marcelo's like, that's not the deal I had with Cannavaro.
Exactly.
He let me go forward as long as I sprinted back. Also important that Casemiro's not there, because I think I called this out in the preview that Casemiro and Marcelo are used to playing together so much that Casemiro covers the space for Marcelo in a way that was not happening today.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I think, if there were one vulnerability that like really did exacerbate the problems for Brazil, it was not having Casemiro, because you look at a lot of the like counterattack breakaway opportunities that Belgium did get, you have to believe that Casemiro is sliding in to block that space or committing that professional foul, even if it means he gets further suspended. But I think that him not being there, Fernandinho did
2 World Cups.
True. Fernandinho did his best, but I just think he wasn't prepared to handle the type of attacking pressure that Belgium brought to bear in a way that maybe Casemiro would have, at least just because he's been playing regularly for Brazil, he would have been able to deal with a little bit more.
I just think he's a special player as well. I think he's someone who, okay, so you've got a candle you want to put out. Yep. Casemiro puts a whole cup over it and it like cuts off the oxygen, whereas Fernandinho just blows on it as hard as he can. Yeah. Doesn't always go out.
No. And I mean, in this case, he did worse than that, because I think that kind of takes us to the first goal.
I mean, let's lay some blame on Fernandinho. Unfortunately, he scores essentially, maybe literally, an own goal. I haven't seen how it's listed for the first one. And he is the guy who maybe could have stopped Lukaku charging through for the second goal to set up De Bruyne, but buys one of the fakes instead. So there's a lot of things Fernandinho got wrong blowing on candles here.
But it really, like, if we wanted to continue the Transformers analogy for a second, I feel like
Before we do, should we ask, do we?
I think I do, because I want to say that I feel like a lot of Brazil's game plan was set up by Michael Bay, in that it kind of, on a large scale, exploded without much of a plan to, like, for the underlying aspects of their game plan. Because really, like,
and it cost a lot of money.
That too. But if you look at this first goal, yes, it's like an unintentional handball.
The own goal from a corner kick.
Yeah. But like, as I diagrammed on Instagram and shared on Twitter, and we got a few comments about what it maybe looked like, and I'm fine with that. But it really is Brazil trying to defend in a zone, and they set up in such a way that they completely leave this weird, like almost intentional space for Vincent Kompany to just sprint through to be wide open at the near post.
I made a note of this because I wanted to make sure we didn't forget it.
Guard of honor?
You called it a guard of honor that 2 lines of Brazilian defenders had set up for Vincent Kompany to run straight through. It's what it is, man.
If I didn't know any better, I would have thought, like, are the Belgian players wearing Brazil shirts? Is this the decoy they're going with? Because it is so perfectly blocked off that he just runs right through it. And you can see him, as he does so, sort of look around like, are you guys sure? Like, you don't want to block me?
Is this the Truman Show?
Yeah. And then he makes that run. And it makes me wonder then, because this is something you spotted, if him streaking through and being completely uncovered maybe makes Gabriel Jesus think, oh, I got to do something about this.
Yeah. So Gabriel Jesus is marking. He's not on the near post.
Yeah.
He is outside the near post. And again, Brazil are in a zonal system. I'm pretty confident. Where the plan is, here's my zone. If it comes in my zone, I attack the ball.
Yeah.
Kompany ends up in Fernandinho's zone, but Jesus steps out of his zone and tries to attack the ball, ends up jumping into Fernandinho, essentially knocks Fernandinho off his jump a little bit, and this is part of the reason. I don't think he knocks him into the ball, but he just puts him off his game a bit. This is why it bounces off of Fernandinho and goes in with an own goal.
Yeah, I mean, and I just think the only thing I can figure, because the way Jesus attacks this is maybe he's just been told anything that you think you can get at the near post, you are responsible for getting to.
I think he just expanded his sphere of influence too far, though. He should have stayed where he was.
But true. But I really do think, in retrospect, that seeing Vincent Kompany, who is obviously a very capable header, especially on set pieces, sprinting through unmarked, would make you be like, I got to do something. I got to at least try to put a body to him to make him have to think a little bit.
Yeah.
But in doing that, he puts off Fernandinho so that you don't get the like obvious read on the ball, and then I do think Kompany gets a little bit of a flick to it, which adjusts the trajectory as well.
He gets maybe 7 skin cells on top of his head to this ball, but it is enough to adjust the trajectory. Is it worth saying as well, I think Belgium targeted the near post.
Yeah.
They kept serving those balls in to the near post, and usually Vincent Kompany or someone else good in the air would attack that near post. I wonder if they'd noticed that Gabriel Jesus was that defend the front guy, and that's not really the thing he excels at the most. Got to remember, he's still kind of a kid, right?
Yeah.
He's still a young, like, he's great in the box, scoring goals for Man City. He is not a seasoned near post defender.
No, and I think he'll probably look back on this tournament with a decent amount of regret. He did fine. He did a lot of off the ball running. We've talked about that on multiple occasions, but still no goals. And you could say at fault here, he makes way very early on in the second half and doesn't really factor in after that, obviously. So I think in the end, no goals and a knockout round quarterfinal, knockout round elimination. Probably not what he was going for.
So was it 2-0 at halftime?
Yes, it was.
And
2-0
at
quarterfinal
half
knockout.
time.
My bad.
Yeah, you got it.
Eventually.
2-0 at half time. Let's talk about the goal of the game.
Sure.
This is the great goal, right? It's a Belgium counter-attack goal. I can't remember how they win the ball to begin with. Is it a corner kick?
Yep.
It is. Is it? Oh no, I've just remembered. It's Brazil.
Yep.
Sent their centre backs forward.
They sure did.
For a corner kick. I know I have a reputation for saying teams shouldn't do this. Obviously, this could be entered as evidence on my case that you shouldn't send your teams forward for a corner kick. I mean, if you're losing, I think it's worth doing.
I think Miranda may have stayed back. I can't remember, but they definitely sent Thiago Silva at least. But it was the situation, as we've talked about many times, where it is still two players defending. And I think in the past, there's this idea that, like, oh, it's two players, but they're going to take their time. They're going to want to build slow. If the opposition wins the ball back, they're going to kind of pass it around a little bit. We'll have time. And obviously, the modern game, specifically with Belgium, specifically a Belgium team with Kevin De Bruyne,
I'd say any team that Kevin
fast.
De Bruyne is on will break really fast because he's so very good at it. In this case, he doesn't lead the counterattack like he normally does.
Would you know? That's because he's defending the short corner. That's my favorite. Of everything that happens in this, that might be my favorite aspect, is that when you have the corner, you have that little hash mark that shows you where the closest opposition player can stand. That's Kevin De Bruyne. He is defending the short corner, standing on the end line. 10 seconds later is shooting into the back of the net from 20 yards out.
In fact, even though they're in different spots, De Bruyne is essentially doing the Belgian version of what Gabriel Jesus is doing, defending the corner kick for Brazil, right?
Yeah.
Except in this case, Belgium clear it. Kevin De Bruyne is down the other end, scores the goal that makes it 2-0. But the man that makes it all happen.
You knew I was going to get the butt in there because I was like, we got to talk about Romelu.
We do have to talk about Romelu Lukaku because he did great running all day, pulling Brazil's defense all over the place, running the channels, talking to Eden Hazard. Like remember, there's a thing with Hazard yelling at Lukaku after the Panama game. This was a chance for Lukaku to not yell, but subtly suggest to Eden Hazard where he should go and where he should be.
He did
in
some
this
yelling.
Game.
He did some yelling in the corner before to this. He because there's an earlier corner, and he definitely tells Eden Hazard, go wide, go wide.
Yeah.
He pulls himself wide, and then that ball goes to Eden Hazard, who's made the run wide.
So
he's definitely directing some traffic. But
Excellent.
Here, it's a little bit awkward the way he collects the ball, and he has a slightly heavy touch.
Yeah.
And then he just thinks, I'm going to make up for that by going on a beautiful run.
And then he does a big sort of, it's a slow to turn dribble in many ways. Like it's a big turning circle, is what I'm saying. But eventually, he gets to be running at, is it Fernandinho and Fagner?
Yep.
He's up against two people.
Fagner, he gets around, and Fagner's then chasing. It's Fernandinho who's in front of him and should be doing a better job.
All right, but then he fakes Fernandinho one way. Then I think there's another defender. I think this is Fagner again then. He fakes Fagner the other way. And because he gets them both to open up, he dribbles straight through the middle of them, and Romelu Lukaku is away. He opened the doors to Brazil's house himself. Lukaku's away. Then he finds Kevin De Bruyne, who's sprinted, at this 80% of the field at this point. And then De Bruyne hits it perfectly. Perfectly. There's that one slow-mo where you see him just put it straight into the side netting.
Yeah, and that's perfect. What was not perfect was the defensive work from Fernandinho, and I think you pointed this out earlier, that he could have committed that professional foul, drawn a yellow card, and you stop the counterattack there.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that's what Fagner thought he was going to do, because you can see Fagner kind of hold off a little bit because he thinks, Fernandinho is going to take him out, then I'll be able to get back in position. And as soon as that tackle doesn't happen, he tries to close, he tries to get around, and he ends up clipping Romelu Lukaku, but the ball's already been played.
Lukaku watches this from the floor.
He does.
He?
He's laying on his chest while watching, and the referee definitely does the play on gesture. So
he'd won a free kick.
Yeah. So I think it would have been a yellow card if the play had stopped there, but obviously it does not. But again, I think that's Fernandinho not doing the defensive work he needs to be doing at that level.
And then from 2-0 up, right? It's Belgium versus Brazil. You would think Brazil have 45 minutes to get 2 goals back. You would think it was possible. They just get the one, right? Renato Augusto comes off the bench, gets ahead to, I believe, a Felipe Coutinho chipped pass. Augusto does the Paulinho, basically, right? For the most part,
he really did. Like he waits, he drifts in. I think Chadley loses him, thinking that the run has stopped, and then he picks the run back up. Renato Augusto gets a great header, and it's 2-1.
But that's the one moment where they get through the middle, right? For
the
most part,
they had another one with pretty much the exact same sequence. Only in this case, it's a shooting opportunity for Renato Augusto. It's some good passes.
Yes.
He shoots just wide. That felt like the one where it should have been 2-2, and when it wasn't, it kind of had that air of like, ooh, this might not be happening.
And there was the Coutinho one, right? Didn't he also put one over and wide?
That felt very representative of Brazil's game, especially in the second half. It was this weird, rushed, but like overly elaborate approach where like get it forward and we got to get a goal, but then also rather than Coutinho, it's like Neymar cutting it back, Coutinho sprinting into the box, has the opportunity to hit it first time. And I really do think if he just puts his laces through it, that goes in the back of the net because, yes, there's bodies in the way, but if you hit that so hard, nobody is going to be able to react to it the way they would if you try to open your hips up and place it far post.
I agree.
You end up basically mishitting it out for a goal kick.
All right, so those 3 chances aside, for the most part, Brazil's attacks ended up coming from out wide, getting into the box, but from a terrible angle, making it easy for Thibaut Courtois to save shots from Neymar from an angle, Douglas Costa from an angle, and all of that to me comes down to that weird defensive shape that Belgium managed to have. 4 defenders, 3 defensive midfielders ahead, then Kevin De Bruyne waiting just ahead of them, ready to launch a counter-attack. It's almost a triangle shape, forces you out wide, doesn't give you much of a chance to come inside and have good shots.
Well, it forces you out wide if you can get around those front 2 of Lukaku and Hazard. But oftentimes what it would do is, and I think what it was designed to do, is instead of giving you that channel, because basically you've got the 2 forwards spread wide and sort of blocking the outlet
2 Belgian
passes.
forwards.
You've blocking the outlet passes to the 2 Brazilian fullbacks. That doesn't seem like it's on, so then you sort of focus centrally, you try to play through the middle, and that's where Kevin De Bruyne is waiting to win the ball back or collect the ball after a tackle, and then he's looking to spray the ball in the channels, and you've got like a tailor-made counterattack right there.
So that's the 2 waves then, right?
Yeah.
That's your first thing. If you don't get past that, Belgium are counter-attacking you. If you do get past that, then you hit like a wedge, right? And you get forced down the wings, and you don't get good chances. Yeah. And this is, again, part of Belgium's really well-prepared setup. I don't really have much else to say about this game other than that Roberto Martinez out-tacticked Brazil.
Yeah,
that's a Sam Allardyce phrase, by the way, in case anyone is emailing in to say, Darryl, that's not a word. It is now.
I think the only other thing
it was added to the soccer dictionary.
I think the soccer dictionary has phrases? All right, I like it.
Yeah.
I think the only thing to mention very quickly is that Neymar, what did you say? The boy who cried foul? The boy who cried ouch?
The boy who cried ouch.
Yeah. This game had a little bit of that in it because he has 3 different penalty shouts. One is negligible at best. One is definitely a dive. The third is the one where maybe there's an argument to be made. I forget who it is who's defending him.
I think, is it Thomas Meunier?
That could be.
Pokes him in the eye?
Yes, it's Meunier.
Or at least closes his eyelid as if like to say, rest in peace.
It's a ball played to the back post, and Neymar's ahead of Meunier. Meunier is like putting that arm out, I think, to propel the jump forward. But when he puts the arm out, he definitely gets Neymar in the face. Maybe the referee saw that and just thought there's no way he's going to get to the ball. But it did make me feel like if it were a different player who weren't diving and rolling around all the time, maybe they'd look at that again and think, he did kind of whack him, he put him off, that's enough, it should be a penalty.
Well, actually, this leads us into a weird conversation. I just felt like that's a penalty because you can't poke people in the eyes.
Yeah.
More than if he just brushed his cheek, not a big deal. Because eyes are so delicate and very important for seeing what's happening.
Yeah.
That I think any poke in the eye seems to me like it should be a penalty kick. I'm pretty sure that's probably not in the FIFA laws of the game or in any sort of guidance to refs. But it makes a weird sense to me that you can't mess with people's eyes.
It does. But I think the difference there would be that the way you're phrasing that is you can't mess with people. And I think the argument from the referee would be Meunier is, his hands are in what would be a natural jumping position. Sometimes there's going to be contact. That contact is incidental, even if it's with Neymar's eye.
Yeah. But it's Neymar.
But of course he's not. He wasn't too thrilled about that. I don't think Neymar will be too thrilled about anything from this game because he had some very interesting moments.
Did he look grumpy to you?
I don't know. I don't know if it was just that he's tired of getting kicked, if he felt like it wasn't going to happen on the day, if he was sort of flummoxed by some of his teammates and what they were doing. But there was one moment in the first half, in like the 27th or so minute, when Neymar, it's the part where he goes out and gets treatment. They showed it like on the normal camera. He goes down, I think they said like, at the time they thought it was his shin guards, but then maybe he twisted an ankle. He gets the magic spray. He's out getting treatment for a couple minutes. Fine. But when you watch from the tactical cam, that injury happens like on the far left side for Brazil, and he slowly walks while play is going across the whole field, through the middle of a play, off to the sideline. And it takes him a solid minute to walk all the way. And it just felt like, and at that point they're chasing.
He was like the dancing bear in that basketball
video.
You're
not wrong.
It was a British thing, right? So most people probably haven't seen it, but it's about awareness and can you spot what's going on in the background. Neymar was like that.
He really was.
Just wandering through a game that was happening.
It was just very strange because, like, we talked about this. I can't find a reason for if my team were down, why I would be casually walking off the field, because I kept waiting for him to be like, haha, I'm not injured, and he would sprint down the channel or something.
Surprise, Belgium.
Yeah, like he learned from Senegal. But no, it really was just he walked off to get treatment.
He nyanged it.
Yeah, and then I think between that and some of his tackles, I think there's an argument to be made that he could have been sent off in this game. He had a really aggressive, professional tackle, if you want to go that route, in the first half that could have been a yellow. There's a couple others. I feel like he could have been sent off. He will probably not be too thrilled with this performance, obviously because they were eliminated, but also because I think there's more maybe he could have done, but certainly what will make headlines about his performance in this game wasn't his performance, if that makes sense.
It does. Here's a weird thing.
Yeah.
We've praised Roberto Martinez,
Yeah.
Bobby Martins, for how he got everything right for Belgium. Brazil were our favourites, our hard favourites for this tournament before the tournament even started, based on us genuinely watching a lot of footage of every team. We thought Brazil had a plan, had the personnel, had depth at every position. So we thought if Casemiro's out, Fernandinho's in, it'll be okay, right? So what went wrong? Were they not as deep as we thought? Was the plan not as good as we thought? Did Chiche not manage to change it up when faced with something different from Belgium? Like, how has this gone wrong for Brazil? Or is there just an element of luck to this where Brazil is still this really good team, but they're just out in the quarterfinals?
Yeah, I mean, I think things can be two things.
Can it be five things? Because that's what this feels like.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, I think, number one, what Martinez did in terms of starting with a back three and then very quickly, like very obviously having three back, it makes Chichi and Brazil think like, okay, we know what they're doing. They're doing the same thing as always. I wouldn't even be surprised, we didn't watch it that closely, if they made it look as though it was like, oh, this is the same team that went against Japan. Like, it's Witsel sitting by himself, it's Fellaini going off, doing his own thing. We're going to have lots of opportunities. So you can definitely be lulled into a false sense of security that way.
They didn't think they were each facing two formations for the price of one.
Yeah, exactly. But then I think, as is always going to be the case with a manager who kind of backs specific players, I think then it flips around when you lose. So there was a lot of talk about Gabriel Jesus not being a natural goal scorer and not being the obvious one to lead the line.
That is nonsense.
There was talk about Paulinho and should he have been recalled? Should he be in this team?
Because he's a Chiche favorite.
Well,
right?
yeah, and it was. I think he was initially recalled when he was still playing in China.
Yeah.
And then Fagner
but
being in there.
Nobody previously played with Chiche at Corinthians.
True.
And that's why he's like tied to him in that way.
Yeah, but I'm saying the criticism was about like, why are you calling in this player who plays in China? There's so many other midfielders, and then Fagner as well being included. Those three things, I think you could point to all of them as like Jesus didn't have a very strong game. He was subbed out. Paulinho subbed out, but also sort of didn't really get anything going. We kept seeing him try to make those late runs, but they were picked up by Chadley every single time. And then
but here's the thing. I even now feel compelled to... I know you're not making these accusations, but I feel compelled to defend Chiche because... Yeah, Jesus didn't have a great game, but he shifted him to the right wing for the start of the second half and then subbed him out after like 57 minutes, right, to get Firmino, to make sure Firmino was up front, right? Paulinho didn't have a great game, got subbed out for Renato Augusto, and Augusto scored a Paulinho goal. So even the theoretical mistakes that Chiche made, he fixed, right? So that's why I'm struggling to come up with a reason for how Brazil managed to lose this game.
I mean, and you asked me at the end, like, was I surprised because it didn't seem like the Brazilian players were gutted? Like, we didn't see tears, we didn't see people breaking down.
Like Jimenez was crying for Uruguay in the last 10 minutes.
In like the 85th minute,
before it was even over,
And it makes me wonder if maybe they just felt like, like we just didn't get it done on the day. Like we tried, we made the adjustments, but we didn't get the result. I will be curious to see how this performance is received in Brazil, if it's seen as a failure and can you believe they're eliminated at this point, and I think a lot of it will depend on what Belgium do. If Belgium go and get knocked out by France in the next round, I think that shapes the narrative. If Belgium outlast France, make it to the final, win the World Cup, then suddenly, you're put out, but you're put out by some tactically astute changes from the world champions. That definitely changes the lens in which you see this performance.
So two of our World Cup semi-finalists will be France and Belgium. That's an exciting game. We are about to preview the other two quarterfinals that are both happening on Saturday. But first, today's show... No, I thought you can do the whole echo thing. Today's show is sponsored by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN, we're very happy. They're a new sponsor of the Total Soccer Show. Taylor, once again, just in case anyone doesn't know, what is a VPN? What does it do?
It's a virtual private network. It essentially lets you securely use the internet without being tracked by anyone. And their easy-to-use app encrypts all the internet data and hides your IP address, protecting your entire connection.
And here's how it looks on your computer, for example, which is where I downloaded the app. You just launch it, and you click protect. I actually don't know what the button says, but you click it. It's like a power button. And then you know the VPN is in effect. The VPN is in effect and you feel secure. Even better than that, you can choose where your IP address, your new IP address, is located. You could, for example, choose to be located in the UK, even if you're located in the USA. Which means if, for example, you wanted to watch, let's say, the England-Sweden World Cup quarter-final on the British Broadcasting Corporation television network, the BBC, you could do that. Normally you couldn't do that because it would be geo-restricted. With ExpressVPN, you can be in the UK and you can watch the BBC's coverage. Gary Lineker and everything.
There we are. You can also, I'm sure you can tune into other ones. You could use the Dutch one, for example, if you wanted to hear it called in Dutch, or if you wanted to access...
I think it's mostly just crying this year.
That makes sense. If you wanted to do Dutch Netflix, you could do that as well.
Yes. Worth noting, they have different libraries in different countries.
They
so that
certainly do.
That can be helpful. If you wanted to watch Croatia beat Russia on Croatian TV, I think you could probably stream via there as well.
I think you could. And if you really wanted to do Russia, then that's your prerogative.
Yes. What you do in your free time is up to you.
There we go. So to unlock access to all the streaming content you want today and find out how you can get 3 months free, go to expressvpn.com/Total Soccer Show. That's ExpressVPN, ExpressVPN.com/Total Soccer Show for 3 months free with a 1-year package.
I like how you put a bit of music in it. It's expressvpn.com/Total Soccer Show. Also worth mentioning...
Total,
yeah.
Okay.
But there's a T in it.
Oh, okay.
It's silent.
Right.
I'm Englishing up as we get closer to the
Toal.
Sweden preview. I'm Englishing up. Also, I've used ExpressVPN. I used to use a different VPN server. I'm sticking with ExpressVPN. I like it.
Beautiful. Well, hopefully you will like tomorrow's results. We've got 2 games to talk to. Finally, England, not the final team to play.
I think once you win a penalty shootout, they don't make you go last in every round of games.
Not sure that's how it works. At 10 a.m., it's Sweden v. England. At 2 p.m., Russia, Croatia. Let's start with Sweden, England. I'm sure we'll be done in the next hour or so.
Hey, all right. So I've promised you, I'm not going to get emotional about this, right? We're going to preview this tactically.
I think you promised me you would try not to get emotional.
Well, here's why. Okay, we'll do the emotion part first. I said to you before this tournament, and I think I said it in our England preview, all I want from this tournament is for England to have a celebratory moment and not leave in disgrace, right? So not an Iceland situation. That penalty shootout win against Colombia, first penalty shootout win in England World Cup history, that was my moment. People were congratulating me as if I did something. I had my World Cup moment. I'm genuinely happy whatever happens going forward. So if England lose to Sweden... I mean, I'll cry on the day.
I 100% don't believe you.
It won't be a day that lives in infamy with me.
I 100% don't believe you.
We'll
I appreciate that attempt to avoid the emotion, but there is 0% chance that if Sweden come out and destroy England, or if England come out and lose 1-0 in the final couple minutes, that you're... See, exactly. Daryl just twitched. There's no chance that you're not going to have strong emotions and be disappointed.
Okay, well...
But I'm still with you.
You may be right.
At this point, it is more of a success that I think most pundits, specifically in England, would have expected to see from this team. I'm also very happy that they got past Colombia. I'm sort of happy that Belgium got past Brazil, just from the standpoint of now you don't have to have that stupid debate about, should we have finished second? Should we have tried to beat Belgium?
Yeah.
It kind of works either way. Maybe it would be Belgium-England in the final. You never know.
Actually, before we preview this game, can we just get into this? The World Cup winner is going to be either Belgium, France, England, Sweden, Russia, or Croatia. Whoever it is, it feels a bit weird.
It does, because you've got...
I know England and France have won it before.
That's the key thing.
But just the once and just when they hosted it.
It's weird to me that, first of all, I forgot about that it was England hosting, But that's the weirdest thing for me is, I remember in 2010 when it was a huge deal that, we're finally going to have another team winning it. And it felt so strange. And even then, that was still...
Spain, who just won the Euros.
And the Netherlands.
And we're clearly the best team in the world.
And then the Netherlands, who have been there once or twice before. So... to have it, be this situation when there's a realistic possibility that, really it could be Belgium-Croatia in a World Cup final. Not something I ever really expected, but something I think we're probably long overdue to experience.
Well, 2 of the contenders to get there, as we said, are England-Sweden. I've emotioned everywhere, so let's just talk about the setup, the tactics here. Here's a thing I'm going to be watching for from both teams. This really is the set pieces game, right? Sweden, great on set pieces. Granqvist getting forward, the centre-back. England also unexpectedly good compared to previous tournaments on set pieces in that they have a bunch of design plays.
I think they've scored the most set piece goals of anybody remaining.
Or the least from open play
Also that.
in many ways. But you think of the goal that John Stones eventually scores against Panama, but it starts with that weird intricate free kick where Jordan Henderson comes deep and then crosses it to the back post and it's put across to the far post. There's a lot of time and thought gone into England set pieces in a way that makes me think they're onto something here. And then there's Harry Kane. And I think we didn't talk about this enough during the Colombia game. He definitely was fouled by Carlos Sanchez for that penalty in the second half. He also, I think, is initiating contact with defenders and setting up situations where he wins penalty kicks.
Okay. I'm not sure. I've seen all this. I still don't think I agree.
You don't? Okay.
No, because I feel like that is so harsh in such a he's setting it up, he's making it happen, he's forcing the penalties to occur, whereas I think he's doing what an attacker does to get free of a defender. And I think that if you are a frustrated Colombia fan, you would see that as, oh, look, he's shoving, he's fouling, he's grabbing.
Yeah.
But I see that more so as everything that happens in a box when a forward is being held, like that swim move that you tweeted about, we talked about a little bit.
Yeah, to get away from Sanchez, and then Sanchez jumps on him in a panic.
Yeah, I think it's him trying to get the hands off of him so he can get free. I think the one maybe up for debate moment is when he does a little bit of a shove in order to be able to kind of wrong foot Sanchez. But I still think that it's not as though Harry Kane is doing some sort of mischievous thing that's a little bit dirty and a little bit I don't know.
I didn't say it was any of those things. I said it in celebration.
Did you? Because it feels like when you say he's doing this to earn a penalty, it makes it seem like in my mind it's Neymar leaving a foot behind. It's kind of that
I meant it more of he's setting up a situation where he's got a very good chance of earning a penalty kick, and maybe it's clever. Right? Maybe it's cleverer than England strikers have been in the past. I had Scott Zawadzki, official referee consultant to the Total Soccer Show, made the point that it's if Kane has made that swim move before the corner kick is taken, but then is fouled after the ball comes in, then he's been very clever about when he initiates the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'm essentially just saying, you and I can disagree on how much maybe blame he has to carry for his involvement in these penalty kick situations. At the very least, we can agree Harry Kane is getting himself pulled down in the box a lot and winning penalty kicks.
Yeah.
So it's a thing to watch for.
Yes.
From a neutral perspective.
I still disagree with some of the way you're choosing to phrase that.
Right.
I'll be interesed to watch how he positions himself.
I was trying to sneak some phrasing past you.
I know you would, and it wouldn't happen.
Like a loose contract, like a loosely worded contract.
Nope. But I think for purposes of this argument, I'll just say I'm interested to see where he lines up in relation to the referee. We talked about that before.
Oh, yeah.
I want to know if he puts himself right in front of the referee in order to make it very obvious to the referee if he's taken down yet again.
Well, hopefully the referee sees. I'm trying to be neutral here. To be neutral. If it's not Harry Kane getting himself or getting bundled over in the box, it's England clearing out space for John Stones or Harry Maguire, sending their big guys forward, setting some picks, getting those guys to the ball. That's become definitely a trait of England during the World Cup.
So set pieces going to be very important. What else do you envision being very important, Daryl Grove?
For England or for anyone?
Whomever you would like to discuss.
Well, so this goes both ways. For Sweden, we have seen that Toivonen and Berg, the two centre forwards, one of them seems to take the job, in my head I think it's Toivonen, of marking the opposition players' key central midfielder, their distributive centre midfielder. So, for example, when Sweden played Switzerland in the round of 16, Xhaka was the guy that it all went through. Toivonen, I believe, was the guy that either man-marked Xhaka or at least stood in front of him so that defenders could not pass to Xhaka and Switzerland could not get a move going through their distributor. For England, that is Jordan Henderson, somewhat famously at this point, at least in this room, where England have the back three, Jordan Henderson's ahead of them, they're trying to feed him the ball and he's moving around trying to get the ball. I wouldn't be surprised if Sweden cut that off altogether. That would be a victory for Sweden. Then it's a question of, do England have other ways they can try and play through Sweden?
Do you think they do?
Would you remember when Eric Dyer replaced Henderson and suddenly they couldn't do it? I think the answer might be no. I'm worried that maybe it's then on Jesse Lingard and Dele Alli would be the other midfielders. It's maybe on them to come and show for the ball. Or it's on maybe Stones or Walker or Maguire to be brave and dribble out of the back, which could lead to trouble. I really think that's a real key area to watch is when England have the ball, Henderson is blocked off. What do England do, and does it work?
I would be interested to see if Southgate takes a page out of Martinez's book and tries something kind of completely different, because I think that's what the other teams tried. But then you have your two more attacking midfielders dropping in, and suddenly they're 40 yards removed from your attacking line.
Yeah, you disconnect your midfield from the attack if you do that, right?
So then I would say maybe it will be incredibly important for whomever starts out wide. Probably Kieran Trippier, probably Ashley Young. Maybe he gets subbed out for Danny Rose, depending on fitness and injury and all that good stuff. I'd say those two fullbacks and how involved they can be in the attack without getting caught out themselves, that could be a way to alleviate some of that pressure on Jordan Henderson.
Right, because this is what Sweden do as well, right? Sweden stay... let's define this. They stay narrow in that the fullbacks stay tucked in with the centre-backs and the wide midfielders stay close to the centre midfielders. And they stay compact in that there is not a great distance between the defensive line, the midfield line, and the forward line, right? But they don't necessarily sit deep. They just, that sort of pack of 10 players sticks closely together and sometimes presses a little high up the field and causes trouble when you got the ball. Sometimes sits in midfield, sometimes sits deep, but they don't let you go through the middle. They might let you play out wide. So then how much can Ashley Young and Kieran Trippier create out wide? Trippier. Excuse me.
Or even I think one point that you were making before we started recording was the idea that maybe you've just got to vary it up and go long a couple times. And you can't be afraid to be the England team that go route one against Sweden because that
not the whole time.
No, but I mean, I think that's what Switzerland didn't really want to do against them and had problems with. I would say it's kind of a similar thing to what Spain did against Russia. We'll talk about that a little bit when we get to Croatia-Russia. But if you're unwilling to try the low percentage but like highly exciting passes or attempts over the top, then you end up just doing the same thing over and over again. And that would be my concern with England teams, at least of the past, they're marking Jordan Henderson. Well, let's get another person next to Jordan Henderson, and that should solve it. Oh, no, wait, that guy's now marking two of them. Well, let's get a third guy in there. Like, it just feels like if you're doing the same things that other people have done to address a problem that they didn't really deal with, you've got to try to find other ways to vary up the attack so Sweden can't get comfortable.
For Sweden attacking, we highlighted in their previous game that finally Emil Forsberg had stopped standing at left midfield. He had started drifting in field and earning that number 10 on his back, started doing some playmaking. I'd be interested to see, does he do this against England as he did against Switzerland?
I would guess he does, just to try to balance out the midfield a little bit because England will have the numbers there, but also to make sure that Forsberg is more involved in the attack. The question for me then becomes who deals with that. So if he's nominally like the left midfielder but coming inside, would that be, say, Kieran Trippier, who's going to track him the whole way? Is it one of Dele Alli or Jesse Lingard or maybe Ruben Loftus-Cheek if he starts? Is it one of your central midfielders dropping in to deal with that potential threat?
I would hope Trippier doesn't get dragged in field.
Trippier is what it's called. Thank you.
Then it ruins the shape. Oh, because his international career was born away in France.
There we go.
I would hope Jordan Henderson doesn't take over that because then he's not available to do other things. So, maybe Lingard or Dele Alli, whoever's like right of centre. I would like to see him passed off. I think what I'd most like to see from any team is effective communication and passing players around so that one man doesn't have to follow him everywhere, that he's just covered as he goes. We saw Belgium do this against Brazil, right? A lot of talking and passing players between each other. I think that's always the way to go.
I think a key point there that you hit on is effective communication, because I think part of what makes Sweden such a difficult team to play against is not just how defensive they are, but how frustrating they can be because of how good they are defensively. And we've seen teams go up against them and you see the infighting, you see the bickering, you see a lot of visible frustration. And if England go down that route as well, you're suddenly getting sucked into that. Like, we can't do anything, we can't figure this out, we can't get it right, we're bad again. And then suddenly elimination is kind of staring you in the face. So how England respond to the defensive-ness of Sweden, I feel like we're setting all this up for like Raheem Sterling to score inside the first 3 minutes, and then this is all kind of out the window. And if you're an England fan, you're hoping it's not the opposite, because if Sweden score first, England's work is cut out for them.
Oh, yeah. Final thing on Sweden, I think you noted this a few times, but not yet on this show, is they weirdly counter-attack very quickly.
Yeah, they do.
It's just not necessarily in a Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku, great to watch Belgium kind of way, but it's no less effective in its own way.
It's prettier in some ways. It's interesting to watch from the tactical cam just to see so many of their counterattacks. They have like at least one a game where it's like 6 players involved, maybe 7 touches on the ball, because it's just pass, and they move from right to left diagonally. Then they'll like swing it back, and suddenly there's an opportunity to shoot or get a set piece. or provide some sort of threat. And it usually comes about from a quick break through the middle with quick combinations where players clearly know the kind of system. It's almost as though they like drawn up a basketball play of like, you go here, then he passes there, then he runs around, then he gets it there, then he gets it over there, and then you're in.
And there's no dwelling on the ball, I think is the key part. The key is to just move that ball forward quickly if you're Sweden. All right, anything else on this game?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't necessarily gotten into some of the personnel. Sebastian Larsson, we expect to return to midfield. Gustav Svensson could still start, but it's kind of a toss-up there. And then the other one, Mika Lustig, the right back for Sweden, is suspended. Emil Kraft, 23-year-old right back for Bologna, will come in. We don't know very much about him at all. So all I know is that Lustig had issues in qualifying. He definitely almost conceded some penalties and had a few mistakes, and yet he was definitely favored by the fans over Kraft. So make of that what you will.
For England, we expect basically the same as usual, right? Yeah. We expect Young and Trippier. We expect Lingard, Ali, Henderson. We expect Sterling, Kane. We expect a back three of Maguire, Stones, and Walker.
I mean, we expect that. The question will be, are they all ready to go? 120 minutes plus a penalty shootout, an emotionally draining penalty shootout at that. A couple of different players picked up knocks afterwards. So do you see Danny Rose start instead of Ashley Young, who came out with injury? Same for Kyle Walker. Potentially the same for Dele Alli. Does Ruben Loftus-Cheek come in? I think a lot of that will be based on fitness, probably in practice today.
All right. One final thing always worth noting, because I think it's been a trend for England, is if things are tight, Marcus Rashford coming off the bench to be the Charlie from Always Sunny style wild card. The wild card who is willing to run at people and make some things happen.
And I think worth noting has a very good relationship on and off the field with Jesse Lingard, and I do think you see those combinations come through at times in games where it feels like they try stuff when they're combining that they maybe wouldn't try with other people, or have the confidence to sort of be like, he's not going to scream at me if I don't get this right, so why not? We'll go for this quick 1-2 and then I'll volley it out of the air for no reason.
Everyone will love me. But one day they will, because it'll go in.
Yeah, there we go. So that's at 10 a.m., Sweden, England. I would say both of these games have both the England-Sweden game and the Russia-Croatia game have the possibility to be very exciting and interesting. There's also a chance that we see 2 penalty shootouts at the end of this game, or these games, rather.
So Russia got to the semi-final by getting everybody, and I do mean everybody, behind the ball against Spain, and just waiting it out, basically, right?
It's worth noting, I think Henry Bushnell in his preview for this game noted that these two teams have combined to take the fewest number of shots on target, but also concede the fewest number of shots on target.
Croatia.
So there you go. I think for different reasons, because I would say Croatia in a couple of their group stage games, actually probably similar reasons, because Croatia and Russia in a few of their group stage games had the opportunity to be very much on the front foot, so they got a lot of chances, but maybe not a lot of clear-cut shots on target. They didn't concede any in those games, and then against stronger opposition, maybe they struggled a little bit more.
So, but we think this is going to be Russia behind the ball again. Right? I've seen reports, and you've seen reports, that maybe they go back to that back four system.
I would be surprised by that.
I say there's no way. I say this comes out as a 5-3-1-1, the 1-1 being Zuba with Golovin underneath. That very quickly, as Modric and Rakitic pass the ball around, turns into a 5-4-1. Golovin will join the other midfielders in a line of 4 in front of a line of 5. And slowly but surely that turns into a 5-5 as Zuba drops in with those midfielders.
Yeah.
That's my guess. Yeah, and then it's on Croatia. Can you break this down in a way that Spain did not?
I feel like I'm weirdly realizing that most of what we said about Sweden, I feel like you could just say for Russia again. Like,
really? I don't think they counterattack as quickly or as effectively.
I think they can, because they do have I think they have a bit more technical ability than Sweden. I think Golovin is probably, of those two teams, the best player. But I was also just realizing, like, it's a defensive team that will probably look to counterattack and take advantage of several select opportunities. I think that applies to both. They're both missing an outside defender.
Yes.
For Russia, Yuri Zhirkov is very likely out, which means Fedor Kudryashov could come in and start. Likely will come in and start.
/left wing.
So you've got a fullback on both teams who are out. That could be an area of vulnerability. And then, it's just going to be more so them being defensive and looking for their target men.
But here's the difference. I have more respect for Sweden's defensive game than for Russia's, because Sweden's is sometimes they'll come and face you in a mid-block or a quite high block. They'll just stay compact and narrow and still be hard to get past. Whereas Russia's versus Sweden was essentially just kind of, we don't know what else to do. We're just going to sit back deep and challenge you to play through us. So Russia's is less fun to watch. Do you remember our eyes bleeding during that Russia-Spain game?
Yeah. I would just say that I think anytime you get a team to execute a pretty much flawless defensive system against one of the best teams in the world. It's more to me than just luck. It might be more to me than just human endeavor, as Daryl taps his arm. I mean, there's definitely an aspect of that I do think is a realistic thing that will be looked into.
There will be an Icarus 2, and it'll be they'll start filming not long after this World Cup.
But I think that factors. I think the amount of energy and mileage that Russia is able to expel and cover factors into how difficult they are to break down and get through.
And just to underline this, if you are performing at an above human level physically, that helps you to not make mental mistakes that come through physical tiredness towards the end of games.
Yeah, because
worth noting,
if the blood doping allegations are to be believed, we'll avoid as much opinion as we can. I will just say simply that I've seen people...
I think that ship sailed.
Whatever. But what I mean to say is that I've seen people say, like, oh, well, if they're doing this, like, if they're blood doping, if they're taking performance-enhancing drugs, I don't think they're doing that. Then, like, shouldn't they be superhuman? Shouldn't they be running around and crushing people?
They had superhuman concentration.
That's the thing, is, like, superhuman doesn't mean Superman. It means above what a human can do, essentially. And so most humans tire after 120 minutes of running, or even after 60 minutes of running. Your brain activity, you get a little less sharp. You can't make decisions as fast as you might have, and by the end, your legs aren't capable of executing what your brain is telling them to do. But if they are, then you have a significant advantage over the teams that do have that level of fatigue.
One man who has a significant natural
advantage.
Oh, yeah, good save. One man who has a significant natural advantage is Artem Zuba, the very big centre-forward who plays for Russia. He'll be up against Croatia's centre-backs Lovren and Vida. I would bet all the money in the world that they both start, injuries permitting. That is going to be an interesting battle, as if Russia launched some long balls to Zuba. What does that battle with Lovren and with Vida look like?
Yes. I have a question for you, though.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell. Like, this is open, honest time on the Total Soccer Show. So, listeners,
isn't it always?
Well, it's more so for I do have this feeling of, like, if you're a Russian American who's listening to this, you are probably not enjoying it, and I can't tell if
the allegations we just sort of suggested.
Sort of bandied about without any, like, necessarily evidence, right? Like, we don't have any proof that that's. But I do believe that those allegations probably come from somewhere. But I do wonder, do you think it is because of the current geopolitical issue combined with that sort of, like, corruption, if you will, of the sports world? Is that why we're so against Russia? Because I do wonder if it was Brazil who were hosting in 2014 and covering lots of ground, if we would be quite as harsh on them, or do you think it's also the fact that it's Russia being defensive that combines all of those things?
I think there is actual evidence that's been proven, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Russian Olympic team engaged in blood doping to the point where at the next Olympics they will have to compete without the Russian flag, right? You can be athletes from Russia, but you can't compete under the Russian flag.
I think so.
That's been proven, and it was very heavily suggested that it was state-sponsored. I see very little evidence that Russia would not do the same again for a team that's hosting a World Cup and doesn't want to be embarrassed.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
But again, do you think, though, that if it were...
And there was the close-up of Zuba's arm is the other thing.
There is that. Yeah. That was questionable. But what I'm saying to you is, do you think, though, you would have this level of frustration if, say, or, I don't know, annoyance towards the team if, say, Sweden were hosting the World Cup and they had these same allegations?
I mean, I don't see that being possible, right? I don't see Sweden as a country that is corrupt or dishonest enough to be willing to do that, right?
I think you just answered my question.
Well, yeah, but Sweden also did not send troops into Crimea or into Ukraine pretending to be local, to be local troublemakers when in fact they were Swedish army, right? Yeah. That did not happen. They didn't do that to Denmark.
I got very confused for a second because the way you phrased that, I was like, wait, did Sweden do that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They did not do that. So, yes, geopolitical things...
I mean, they did in, like, the year, like, 800, but still.
There are geopolitical reasons, but there's a lot of geopolitical evidence.
Yeah. Okay.
Fair
enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, Croatia.
Back to the game. No, I enjoyed dipping into that.
Yeah.
Croatia.
No, it's just, I think that we tend to try to remove our opinions, both, like, politically and just about teams as a whole when we're doing these previews.
Yeah.
But I think Russia is the one that if it were another situation, we would both be super excited. If South Africa had made the quarterfinal, potentially making the semifinal, we would be all about them. But I just think because we already have, you and I do, if I'm being perfectly honest, a lot of negativity towards Russia already, that I think that factors into how willing I am to overlook some of these accusations.
I'm much less willing to give them any benefit of the doubt, right?
Fair. All right.
So Croatia. All right. So it's assuming Russia sit back in that 5-4-1. The challenge is going to be
really going to bite us on the butt when it comes out that Croatia are also blood-doping.
The challenge is going to be: can Croatia Can Croatia break down that defense? Right. So they got themselves a Luka Modric. They got themselves a Rakitic. They got themselves a big Mario Mandzukic, and I think he's the key. If
Are you sure?
Russia,
Are you sure it's not Perisic?
I'm sure. No, Mario Mandzukic, big centre forward. If Russia has loads of men back, I think the key is don't do what Spain did and keep passing it side to side. Go direct. Let Mandzukic fight against Ignashevich and Kutupov. Let him fight for a ball. Let something knock down. Cause some chaos in that Russian box. Because if they're all pushed back, it's quite hard for them to counterattack sitting so deep, right? And again, this is all based on them sitting back deep. I really think that's what they're going to do.
I agree with you. I still go back to, I think there's a chance that the narrative for us recording tomorrow night is look at the contrast in how England tried to break down Sweden versus how Croatia tried to break down Russia. Because again, I think there are similarities there that Croatia can learn from the mistakes of Spain and how they chose not to play in a way that I think England can too. You vary the attack. You go long to Mandzukic sometimes. You try to pull Russia to one side so you can exploit with pacey wingers, Perisic or the man you now love, Rebic.
So I wanted to call it Ante Rebic because every time I've previewed Croatia previous to today, I have said, look out for Perisic on the left wing. He's got the moves. He's got the pace. He'll go left. He'll go right. And every time so far, he has been upstaged by the guy on the right wing, Ante Rebic. So it's worth this time highlighting Ante Rebic. Keep an eye on him.
Perisic goal or assist confirmed. Thanks for that, Daryl.
Probably.
Also, worth noting for both teams, so I said Zhirkov out. Zhagoev could return for Russia. I doubt he starts.
He's the guy that started the tournament with an injured hamstring. Pulled his hamstring really early on, was replaced, and has never come back since.
Replaced by Cheryshev as well, who has done just fine.
He did fine,
for Croatia, Strinic, the fullback, will be out, so we think that will be Josip Pivaric coming in to replace him. So those are your kind of injury concerns. I'll also be interested in, we talked about like Mandzukic and the wingers, but the man you mentioned briefly there, Luka Modric, what he does in terms of, does he start finding himself dropping in deep to try to link up and maybe deal with some of the like bunkered defense from Russia? Or does he try to find space in those gaps within those Russian defenders? I think that will really tell the tale of what Croatia are trying to do, is how advanced Luka Modric is at the start and how advanced he stays throughout.
I think so. Brozovic will sit deep, assuming he plays for Croatia. And what I'm hoping is, if Russia defend deep, that Brozovic can sit and be the shield, and then Modric can just venture forward and go and cause trouble wherever he may.
Yeah. The one other thing I have in my notes that pertains to Croatia is just that they have not looked as good against teams that are maybe not as technically skilled, so they go with a more defensive approach. Croatia haven't looked as strong in those games as they have against, say, Nigeria and Argentina. So which Croatia we see come out, I feel like I don't really know, but I'm hoping it's the one that lights it up and strings together passes and causes problems, because from a neutral standpoint, or a slightly non-neutral standpoint, that will be the more exciting game to watch.
Here's the final thing I want to say. We've said 100 times in this preview, we think Russia will go 5-4-1. I hope they don't. If we are wrong and they come out in a 4-2-3-1 and they press Croatia and they really go for it and they try and play through Golovin and maybe Smolov starts instead of Zuba, I'll be thrilled, because it will be an exciting game to watch. And I'm putting that in there just to not cast a negative spell over this game before it even starts.
All right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you do that, because, as I said, I'm preparing for 240 minutes of soccer tomorrow.
Well, I'll be right here with you. 10 a.m. England v Sweden, 2 p.m. Russia v Croatia, both on Fox, Big Fox, Bob's Burgers Fox.
I would assume.
And so on. We will be here in studio to take a look. We'll also be here to review those games for you. So Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy. And I will add X-Men the Animated Series, Fox. That's my childhood, baby.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Mine too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Listeners, thank you. I probably saw them first, and then you saw repeats.
That might be.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
You gotta slice